Listen closely. In a world that rewards noise, the strongest people move in silence while others announce their plans, broadcast their struggles, and seek validation. The disciplined individual sharpens their blade in private. Power is not loud. Power is controlled, and today you will learn why silence, when used correctly, becomes one of your greatest weapons. This is not about hiding out of fear. This is about protecting your energy, your focus, and your path. Here are 10 things you should never tell anyone about yourself if you want to grow strong, steady, and unbreakable. 1. Your long-term plans. The moment you speak them, they become exposed to doubt, comparison, and interference. Let results speak for you. 2. Your next move. Silence creates unpredictability. Predictability invites resistance. 3. Your weaknesses. Work on them in private. Reveal them only to those proven worthy of your trust. 4. Your income or financial goals. Money attracts opinions, envy, and pressure. Build
quietly.
5. Your past struggles. Learn from them, but do not live in them. Not everyone deserves to know where you came from. 6. Your good deeds. True character does not need an audience. 7. Your deepest fears. Face them alone. Master them internally. Fear loses power in silence. 8. Your family problems. Protect your inner circle. Privacy preserves respect. 9. Your next level. When you announce growth before achieving it, you weaken the drive to earn it. 10. How hard you are working. Let your results be the noise. Let your discipline be invisible. Understand this. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is confidence without explanation. Those who talk the most often do the least. Those who do the most often say nothing. Now it's your turn. Stop explaining yourself. Stop seeking approval. Stop giving people access to your unfinished work. Choose discipline over attention. Choose action over words. Go back to your path. Train, build, improve, and when the world... Go back to your path. Train, build, improve, and when the world finally notices you. When you speak your long-term plans out loud, you give away something that is still fragile. A plan is like a seed. Before it takes root, it needs darkness, silence, and time. When you expose it too early, you invite opinions from people who do not understand your vision, doubts from those who have never walked your path, and projections from those who gave up on their own goals. Not everyone who listens wants you to succeed, and even those with good intentions can weaken your resolve without tingile.
Realizing it.
Talking about your long-term plans creates a false sense of progress. Your mind confuses expression with execution. The moment you tell someone what you intend to do, your brain receives a small reward, as if the work has already begun. That reward steals hunger. It dulls urgency. You feel accomplished without having earned anything, and slowly, discipline fades. Silence keeps the pressure alive. Silence keeps the fire burning. Long-term plans require flexibility. As you grow, your understanding deepens. What made sense at one stage may no longer serve you later. When others know your plans, you feel trapped by their expectations. You start adjusting your actions to match what you said instead of what is right. This creates internal conflict. True strength comes from the ability to adapt without explanation, to change direction without seeking permission. There is also the weight of comparison. Once your plans are spoken, they become a measuring stick. People will compare your timeline to others, question your pace, and ask for updates. This pulls your attention outward instead of inward. Progress becomes performance. Growth turns into pressure. The path is no longer yours alone. Silence protects focus. When no one knows what you are building, there is no need to defend it. No need to justify slow progress. No need to argue with skeptics. Your energy remains intact, directed entirely toward action. The strongest builders are often invisible until the structure is complete. Speaking too much also exposes your plans to envy. Even subtle envy can manifest as discouragement disguised as concern. Words like be realistic or have a backup plan sound harmless, but they plant doubt. Doubt is heavy. It slows movement. When your plan lives only in your mind and your actions, it stays pure. There is power in being underestimated. When people do not know what you are working toward, they do not prepare for it. They do not interfere. They do not interfere. Not compete. You move freely without resistance. Results arrive suddenly, and the same people who questioned you are left wondering when it happened. Long-term plans demand patience, discipline, and internal strength. These qualities grow best in solitude. Let your vision stay quiet. Let it mature through action, repetition, and struggle. Speak less, do more. Protect what you are becoming while it is still forming. Because once it is solid, it will no longer need words to exist. It will stand on its own through what you have built day after day without announcement. Revealing your next move removes the element of surprise, and surprise is a form of power. When people know what you are about to do, they begin to position themselves around it. Some will question it, some will attempt to influence it, and others will quietly prepare to compete with or obstruct it. Even if no one acts directly, the awareness alone changes the environment you move in. Silence keeps the terrain neutral. It allows you to advance without resistance before resistance even forms. When your next move is spoken, it becomes vulnerable to interruption. Life is unpredictable, and plans often require adjustment. If others are aware of your intentions, every change feels like a failure in their eyes. You are forced to explain delays, shifts, or pauses that are actually necessary for growth. This pressure creates anxiety and impatience, pushing you to act before you are ready, simply to maintain an image. Quiet movement allows you to wait, prepare, and strike only when the timing is right. There is also a psychological advantage in withholding your next step. When no one knows what you are about to do, you operate without external influence. You are not swayed by approval or discouraged by doubt. Your decisions remain internal, rooted in clarity rather than reaction. The moment you announce your next move, you open the door to advice you did not ask for and opinions you do not need. Even strong minds can be subtly redirected by repeated suggestions, slowly drifting away from their original intent. Predictability weakens presence. When your actions follow announced intentions, others can anticipate you. Anticipation removes impact. Uncertainty, on the other hand, commands attention. People become cautious around those whose moves cannot be read. This is not manipulation, it is awareness. The unpredictable individual forces others to respond rather than prepare. This shift alone changes dynamics in business, relationships, and personal growth. Speaking about your next move also divides your energy. Part of your focus turns toward maintaining consistency with what you said. Instead of fully committing to what must be done, you begin to perform rather than execute. Silence removes this split. Every ounce of energy is directed toward preparation, refinement, and action. Nothing leaks outward. There is a quiet confidence in moving without announcement. It signals self-trust. You the labor and cost of the role. You can no longer ignore its impact. When you recognize how much energy is consumed merely by maintaining appearances, the magnitude of the role's hold becomes undeniable. You begin to see the ways in which the role has dictated your interactions, limited your choices, and subtly eroded your vitality. This recognition is uncomfortable but necessary. It forces a confrontation with the truth that the role, though familiar and comforting, is not neutral. It is consuming the very essence of your life, and the act of maintaining it has been silently depleting your capacity to live fully. The moment you begin to observe the role that has been guiding your life, something subtle yet profound begins to shift. Awareness is the first fracture in the carefully constructed illusion that the role is who you are. When you start noticing the patterns, the automatic responses, the habitual compromises, you create space, a space between stimulus and you do not need witnesses to validate your direction. You do not need encouragement to proceed. This inner certainty strengthens discipline. The path becomes personal, not public. Progress becomes real, not theoretical. When others cannot predict your next step, they cannot interfere with it, they cannot rush you, delay you, or redirect you. You control the pace, you choose the moment. This control builds composure under pressure and sharpens decision-making. The more you practice silent movement, the more grounded you become. Holding your next move close also protects you from premature judgment. Before results exist, people judge based on limited understanding. This judgment can create unnecessary doubt. By waiting until action is complete, you allow outcomes to speak instead of intentions. The move lands with weight because it arrives fully formed, not half-imagined. Exposing your weaknesses to the wrong people turns private work into public vulnerability. Weakness is not the wrong people turns private work into public vulnerability. Weakness is not shameful, but it is delicate. It represents areas where strength has not yet been built, where discipline is still forming. When you speak about these areas openly, you risk allowing others to define you by what is unfinished rather than by what you are becoming. Once a weakness is known, it can be remembered, repeated, and used against you, sometimes intentionally, sometimes without awareness. Most people do not know how to hold another person's vulnerability with respect. Some will judge, some will gossip, and others will quietly lower their expectations of you. Even subtle changes in how they treat you can influence your behavior. You may begin to act smaller, hesitate more, or avoid challenges because you feel exposed. What was once a private challenge becomes a public label. There is also a danger in identifying too strongly with your weaknesses. The more you talk about them, the more real and permanent they feel. Words shape identity. When you repeatedly describe your limitations, your mind begins to accept them as fixed traits rather than temporary states. Silence allows you to see weakness as a training ground, not a definition. It becomes something you work on, not something you are. Sharing weaknesses too freely can also weaken self-discipline. When others know what you struggle with, it becomes easier to excuse failure. You begin to say, even silently, that this is just how you are. Responsibility shifts outward, growth slows, keeping weaknesses private keeps accountability internal. You know what must be improved, and there is no escape from the work. Strength is built through repetition, not confession. Talking about your weaknesses does not reduce them, action does. Quiet effort compounds over time. When improvement happens silently, it builds genuine confidence. That confidence is stable because it is earned, not reassured by others. There is a difference between seeking guidance and exposing vulnerability. Guidance is selective. It is shared with those who have walked the path and proven their wisdom. Exposing weakness to everyone invites noise, not clarity. Most advice comes from people who are still struggling with the same issues. Their words may comfort you, but comfort does not create strength. Knowing when to remain silent is a form of emotional intelligence. It means understanding that not everyone deserves access to your internal battles. Privacy creates space for focus. It allows you to confront yourself honestly without the distortion of outside perception. In that space, discipline grows. When your weaknesses are unknown, you move without limitation. People do not anticipate your failure. They do not tiptoe around you. They do not see you as fragile. This allows you to push harder, take risks, and test your limits without being reminded of where you fall short. Working on weakness in silence builds resilience. You face discomfort alone. You learn to rely on your own standards rather than external reassurance. Over time, the weakness transforms into competence, then into quiet strength. And when that strength becomes visible, no one remembers the struggle that created it, only the presence it produced. Silence around weakness is not denial, it is respect for the process of becoming stronger without distraction, without labels, without interference. Talking about your income or financial goals is one of the most dangerous disclosures you can make, because money carries influence, expectation, and envy. When others know what you earn or what you aim to earn, they begin to measure you, compare you, and sometimes resent you. Even subtle expressions of judgment can erode confidence and influence decisions in ways you do not consciously notice. The energy that should be focused on growth and creation shifts instead toward defending, explaining, or justifying numbers. When your financial journey becomes public, it is no longer private. It is subject to external control, and that control has the power to slow, distort, or even derail progress. People are rarely neutral about money. Sharing income or financial targets invites unsolicited opinions, advice, or warnings. Some will tell you to be realistic or cautious, planting seeds of doubt. Others will subtly challenge your ambition by comparing you to themselves or their idea. Success. Even those who appear supportive may unconsciously influence your decisions, causing hesitation where confidence is required. When your financial path is spoken aloud, the outside world begins to weigh in, and that interference can easily derail the clarity needed for long-term growth. There is also a psychological trap in announcing financial goals, the illusion of progress. As soon as you articulate a target, your brain rewards the act of speaking with a sense of accomplishment, even half the work has barely begun. That sense of achievement reduces urgency, and over time this subtle decrease in drive can accumulate into significant delays. Income and wealth are created through focus, patience, and relentless effort, not through conversation. Silence preserves the tension necessary to maintain consistent, disciplined action. Moreover, revealing your financial ambitions exposes you to envy. People do not always celebrate your success, sometimes they resent it. Envy is quiet but powerful. It can manifest in subtle ways, undermining trust, creating conflict, or attempting to block opportunities. By keeping your income and goals private, you protect yourself from being targeted, consciously or unconsciously, by those who might see your success as a threat rather than a personal achievement. Financial privacy also strengthens self-reliance. When no one knows what you are striving for, you are accountable only to yourself. Every decision, every sacrifice, every calculated risk belongs to you alone. You cannot be pressured to spend, invest, or act according to someone else's standards. Your focus remains on your strategy, not on the opinions or expectations of others. Additionally, money is deeply connected to identity. Sharing financial information too early can create pressure to live up to an image that is not yet reality. If you announce an ambitious income goal, you may feel compelled to project a lifestyle or persona that aligns with it, even before it is achieved. This projection is distracting and can lead to unnecessary risks or poor decisions. Keeping financial goals private allows the work to remain genuine, authentic, and free from performance-based constraints. Silence around income and wealth is not about secrecy for secrecy's sake. It is about control, focus, and protection. It ensures that energy is spent on creation, strategy, and action rather than explanation or defense. It allows ambition to grow unshaken, now shaken by judgment, envy, or interference. When financial success arrives, it lands as evidence of skill, discipline, and vision, uncontested, undeniable, and complete. Sharing your past struggles is a temptation few recognize as dangerous because it feels natural to seek empathy, validation, or understanding. Yet when you speak about what you have endured, you risk being defined by what happened to you rather than by what you are creating now. Your past, no matter how difficult or transformative, is a private battlefield. Its lessons are invaluable, but the world does not always see the value. They see only the story, the wound, or the limitation. Speaking too freely about your struggles can anchor your identity in events that belong to history rather than in the person you are becoming. Every struggle you faced has taught you something about resilience, discipline, and perseverance, but exposing them prematurely allows others to impose their interpretations on your experiences. People might judge your choices, question your abilities, or even unconsciously reduce their expectations of you. While these reactions may be subtle, they influence your interactions and can create self-doubt where none previously existed. What was once a source of strength can be reframed as vulnerability in the eyes of others, and that reframing carries consequences you might not anticipate. Discussing past struggles also invites comparison, and comparison is a thief of focus. People measure their own challenges against yours, often trivializing your journey or conversely, holding you to unrealistic standards. Neither reaction serves you. When you keep your struggles private, you remove the lens of external judgment. You remain free to grow, adapt, and heal without distraction, without pressure, and without interference. The battle is yours alone, and victory is defined on your own terms. There is also a psychological dimension to sharing struggles. When you articulate pain or difficulty, your mind often relives it. Words can reinforce old patterns of thought and emotion, keeping you tethered to a chapter of life that should now serve as a foundation rather than a cage. Silence allows you to process experiences internally, extracting the lessons without reopening wounds unnecessarily. In this way, the past becomes fuel, not baggage, and your energy is preserved for forward motion rather than reflection for validation. Another danger lies in expectation. When people know the hardships you have faced, they often expect you to act in a certain way, to embody a story, or to justify outcomes based on sympathy. This expectation is limiting. It pressures you to conform to someone else's narrative rather than allowing you to write your own. Silence liberates you from external storytelling and keeps your trajectory defined by action rather than perception. Finally, your struggles are often intertwined with others' stories. Sharing them can unintentionally expose the vulnerabilities, mistakes, or choices of people involved, creating ripple effects you cannot control. By keeping your past private, you protect not only your own growth, but also the dignity and privacy of those around you. This careful restraint reinforces maturity, self-respect, and strategic thinking. Silence around past struggles is not denial, it is mastery. It allows you to transform challenges into strength, lessons into wisdom, and memories into motivation or admiration. In contrast, when good deeds are done quietly, they are purer, more intentional, and far more transformative. The impact remains in the action, not in the acknowledgement. There is a certain discipline in secrecy. It requires you to act with integrity and purpose without relying on external reinforcement. This builds strength of character because your actions are motivated by principles rather than praise. When the world does not watch, you confront the true test of the less you share, the more your life becomes measured by what you are building today, not by what you endured yesterday. Performing good deeds in secret is one of the most powerful ways to cultivate character and influence without exposure. When you announce kindness, generosity, or service, the act loses part of its potency. Public recognition shifts the energy from the act itself to the perception of the act. You begin to act not solely for the benefit of others but for validation, applause, Generosity, giving when there is no guarantee of recognition, when no one will measure your contribution, when the outcome may never return to you. This kind of practice creates an internal foundation that is far more resilient than the fragile approval of others. Good deeds revealed too early can also create expectation. People may begin to see you as the kind one or the generous one and assume that every action will align with that label. This limits freedom. Future acts of generosity may feel like obligations rather than choices. By acting quietly, you retain autonomy over your values and the timing of your contributions. You give because it matters to you, not because it sustains an image. Secrecy in kindness also amplifies the ripple effect. When someone benefits from a quiet act, they experience the gift in its purest form, free from the weight of expectation, debt, or gratitude framed by public awareness. The recipient feels the impact of the action itself, not the narrative surrounding it. By contrast, when good deeds are publicized, the focus shifts to the giver rather than the receiver, diluting the intended effect. There is also a subtle strategic advantage to keeping acts of goodness private. Life is full of observers who may misinterpret motives, twist actions into critique, or use your generosity against you. Silence shields your influence from interference. The energy invested in a quiet act is concentrated entirely on its effect, not on defending or explaining it afterward. Practicing discreet kindness develops humility. It teaches you that true worth is not measured by accolades or attention, but by the difference made in the world, however small, unseen, and uncelebrated. This humility strengthens character, nurtures wisdom, and cultivates patience because growth and impact are gradual and often invisible. When acts of goodness are internalized rather than broadcast, they become part of a larger discipline of self-mastery. You begin to see value in actions themselves, not in their reception. Your moral compass becomes self-contained, guiding your behavior independently of societal approval. Over time, this internal orientation toward integrity creates a quiet authority that commands respect without ever needing to speak. Secrecy in generosity also trains you to appreciate subtlety and restraint. It conditions you to focus on long-term influence rather than short-term recognition. The satisfaction of doing good without a witness builds inner contentment, confidence, and resilience, creating a foundation for all future actions, whether seen or unseen. Through quiet deeds, influence becomes invisible yet undeniable, and character becomes a force that does not rely on applause but instead moves the world steadily, silently, and effectively.